Hello, everyone. Welcome live to the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series Playoffs for race number 1 of the round of 10 here. I am Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight, as always, is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, it is time that it really matters here at the Daytona International Speedway. 2 races to determine the drivers that make it into the round of 7. And, of course, the big one, the big lottery, is tonight at Daytona. A lot on the line for these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, it's a heck of a place to start the playoffs, right? Only 3 points separate Drew Himmelman, our current points leader, because of his 3 wins. He gets those 3 points over 10th place Doug Neal. That's 3 positions on track, not counting lap, sled, bonus points, what have you. But it's kind of crazy. That's not a lot of room for guys who have really done well this season. Daytona, if you have a bad race, Doug Neal, Matt Cherry, Ben Adams, any of those guys towards the bottom win this race. Even though Drew Himmelman's won 3 races, he's going to be in a huge hole if something like that were to happen, or frankly, any of these guys, even if you're not Drew Himmelman up there at the top of the point standing. So, Peter, it's certainly a chaotic entrance into the playoffs as far as track choice is concerned, but it's certainly going to be exciting.
Oh, yeah, it is definitely going to be exciting. That is for sure. We know these National Sim Racing Association series drivers can put on a show for you each and every week, especially on these super speedways. Bit of a long one here tonight, 240 miles around the famed Daytona International Speedway. And all with so much on the line, we will be on the edge of our seats lap after lap after lap. That is for sure. We're looking at Evan Buschbacher in the number 22, working his way around the racetrack right now. A couple of new faces here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series recently. There is Justin White in one of the Simbox machines. There's James Zarello down the backstretch with driver of the number 39 machine, Stan Hausman. And Drew, Stan won the race back at Talladega. Last time, I believe, we were on a super speedway here in the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. So he's going to be one we have to keep our eyes on tonight for possibly doing well at Daytona.
Absolutely. The 39 is going to be one of those guys. The 77 of Doug Neal has been really quick at super speedways. The 62 of Colin Ullery seems like he wins half of their super speedway series races that are now in these trucks as well. So, there's some guys that, not that don't necessarily run up front, but just aren't regularly competing for wins tonight that I absolutely expect to get up there and race for race wins. Speaking of winners at Daytona, Jason Gracias, Peter, won our very first race of the season here at Daytona.
Yeah, that discount tire number 1 machine, not in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs. This did not have enough race starts to make him eligible. But one of the ways you could have made it in to the playoffs was just have a win. And unfortunately, he vacated that opportunity to take part in the playoffs by not participating in enough races. But great to have him back in the field here tonight. As you see James Zarello, Stan Hausman out there on the racetrack, as we have just 34 seconds left here in this practice session before we go over, of course, into our pole shootout, brought to you by our friends over at Craig's Setup Shop, to see if we'll have one of these drivers take the Craig's Setup Shop Pole Award and have an opportunity to participate in the Buttkicker Challenge. I think, Drew, at a super speedway, you might as well go for the Buttkicker Challenge. You just got to keep your nose clean. Very long race here, 240 miles around this racetrack. By my math, that is near on 100 laps. It should be 96 laps if it is indeed a 240-mile event that we have in store for the Sim Shots 240. Big shout out to our race sponsor here tonight, Sim Shots. We'll see a couple of the Sim Shots racing machines in action here, but we're now over in that Craig Setup Shop pole shootout here. And Drew, anyone you have your eyes on for possibly walking away with the pole here?
It's Daytona. I mean, there certainly is kind of a method to doing well at restrictor plate qualifying, but it's not really what's required for most other tracks. Typically, I don't know if I should share my secrets, but why not? High, super high steering ratio, so you can put as little wheel into the thing as possible. And you just want to bind the truck up as little as possible, hug that yellow line, and just kind of let the truck do its thing, get a great warm-up lap, getting out of pit lane really as fast as possible, is going to make a difference. If you're a mile an hour faster getting off pit lane, you're going to be fractions of a mile per hour faster when you take that green flag, which is absolutely huge. So different, absolutely a different skill set than like Martinsville or a road course or something like that, but definitely a skill nonetheless. But I mean, I think Doug Neal won the pole here not too long ago at Daytona, so he's a guy I'm going to have my eye on. But other than that, I don't know. Qualifying is going to be interesting. And it's funny that you mentioned, Peter, that you would be one to take the Buttkicker challenge if you won the pole. I think these chase guys, it's going to be interesting to see if they do it or not. Because I would agree, like if I'm Colin Ullery, who we're looking at right now, I would absolutely do it. Why not try to get a couple extra dollars in my wallet? And especially if I have confidence, like I assume Colin does. But with these chase guys, I just think there's no safe place, but there's a lot fewer cars that can wreck in front of you if you're at the front than if you're in the middle or towards the back, unless you're way back. And even then, Peter, it's not completely safe. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what these guys pick, whoever wins the pole.
Yeah, we're riding on board right now with driver of the number 8 machine. Of course, that is the Sim Shots Chevrolet of Andrew Himmelman. He is hustling to get to the start-finish line here. A couple of lap times trickling in. It is Adam Dama fastest out of everyone. But as I say that, Andrew Himmelman jumps up to the top of the board at 52.44 that we ride on board with right here. There is Adam Dama in the Army Esports Racing Machine. We'll see if some of these drivers can pick it up on lap number 2. JT Poole, though, currently the slowest of the 13 drivers to take time. And as you can see here tonight, the drivers with the green banners and the green rear spoiler, those are the drivers here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs, including this man right here, JT Poole. Lap number 2 for him is going to bump him up to second, right behind Jason Gracias, the number 1 machine winner from earlier this season at Daytona. We started off the season with a Jason Gracias win, currently on the provisional Craig setup shop pole.
Yeah, an exceptional run for Jason Gracias. JT, with an exceptionally slow first lap, typically means you're right up against that wall, which gives you more track to get up to speed at, or in, I guess. And off of turn 4, you kind of fall out of turn 4. And if you're as high as possible, that's going to just give you a little bit extra momentum. Sometimes you can get a little too close and maybe put some wheel into it to keep out of the wall, or you can get in the wall if you're not too careful. But a really great lap there by JT. I'm kind of surprised that Drew Himmelman's as quick as he has given his exceptionally quick first lap. Typically, Peter, you don't want to be P1 after your first lap. That means you didn't get up high enough.
Yeah, although sometimes running a little bit lower on the racetrack, you don't have to saw on the wheel as much because you're not afraid of hitting the outside wall. I've definitely seen that before where drivers run that high line and they're so afraid of actually hitting the wall that they're just kind of sawing on the wheel the whole time, and it just scrubs off speed. So, we saw a couple of the drivers run low on lap number 1, and they're still up there near the top of the charts, probably because they're just letting the truck kind of do what the truck wants to do, trying to get it up to speed. Here's the number 23 of Travis White, 8th position on the board. That looks like where he's going to slot in. Just looking to see, here is the number 11 of Chris Darling. Where is he across the line? He's going to jump from 17th up to 6th position in the number 11 machine right there. So pretty big pickup for him. Not seeing anyone else out there on the racetrack right now. Of course, Matthew Rodriguez, who has won 5 of the NSRA Super Speedway Series, brought to you by GTR Simulators on Thursday nights right here on 3Wide TV. He's going to be a threat for the win here tonight, but he will not pick up the Craig Setup Shop Pole Award. That will go to Jason Gracias in the number 1 machine here tonight. And of course, then now we have to go find Jason Gracias so we can get a quick word with the driver who will be starting up front, or will he? Will he drop to the back? Will he take part in the Buttkicker Challenge? Let's find out here. Drew, I think you've caught up with our pole sitter, Jason Gracias.
Jason Gracias, Drew Eisman up here in the 3Wide TV booth. You got a copy.
Hi, Drew. I haven't talked to you in forever. Super
excited. It's certainly been a minute. Well, I mean, unfortunately, you're not in the playoffs, but fortunately, you got the pole. We all want to know, Buttkicker Challenge, yes or no?
Well, to make the TNR boys happy, we are going to do the Buttkicker challenge. Send me to the back. Let's make it 3 wide, come to the front.
Well, that's honestly what we wanted to hear. How aggressive are these trucks pulling up to the trucks in front of them? I know I did a couple super speedway races with these trucks, and number one, I noticed the visibility is not great, and the runs you get are crazy. Is that the case tonight?
Drew, to be completely honest with you, I haven't turned one lap of practice in the draft, so but going back a couple of weeks when I ran the Super Speedway Series, the draft was strong, but the harder part about it is getting sucked up on the truck in front of you. You don't know when they're turning in, so you kind of have to back it off and be easy. Otherwise, to quote the great Dale Earnhardt Jr., these are some big-ass spoilers, and with these big-ass spoilers, I can't see shit.
And yeah, I mean, speaking of vision, what do you consider to be the biggest challenge that you face tonight?
Well, I like to have fun in iRacing, so I like to mix it up. I like to go 3 wide. I like to, be a little bit aggressive. So my biggest challenge is personally going to have to tame it down for all these chase drivers. Just trying to put myself in their shoes. If I ran the 10 races that I was required to, and if I was in the chase, I'd expect somebody to show a little bit more class and respect when racing around me. So I'll have to give it back to these guys who are in the chase. So first half of this race, I'll probably be more tame, but, within 15 or 20 to go, I'm going to turn it up to super aggressive.
Well, we are certainly looking forward to seeing you get it done on track. Thanks for talking with us, and good luck.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look for this sick MaxGrafix truck to be in victory lane tonight, hopefully. And hopefully I can make the TNR boys proud. Garrett, let's have some fun.
All right, Jason, thanks for talking with us.
Yeah, definitely awesome to hear that he's going for that Buttkicker challenge. Might have some things, against them early, but I know we have seen from Jason Gracias, Drew, that he's a very aggressive driver, and I'm sure, even though he's aggressive, he definitely has a head about him, and definitely knows how to navigate his way around this particular racetrack. We're hearing that maybe several of the paint schemes that you're seeing here tonight might not be quite right, so we're just refreshing things to make sure that we have everything in order. Now we got a couple of the trucks out there on the racetrack. You see the 77 of Doug Neal there, Drew, just barely squeaking his way into the playoffs. Did not have the finish he needed last week. At one point, we thought there was a possibility of him falling out of the playoffs, but was just able to squeak in the number 77 truck. And you see the kind of the bright green banners that we're going to be talking about here tonight, indicating the drivers in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs.
Yeah, and maybe not the run that he wanted last week, but a really big opportunity for a lot of these guys that maybe didn't have a great week or a great couple races leading up to the playoffs. But tonight it's a whole new animal, and if you can have a great finish and some of the guys around you don't, you have a really good opportunity to set yourself up to get into the round of 7. And, I mean, obviously you have to be in that for the big prize at the end of the year, Peter. But quite a few guys have not qualified, including this, or in the chase, or in the playoffs, including Doug Neal, who we're looking at right now. Stan Hausman also didn't qualify, as Mitchell Adams did not as well, and is going to grid up in 30th position for that number 49 machine. Yeah,
so we're going to have some of these playoff drivers start well back in the field. There's Matt Cherry, sporting that green banner as well, coming out there onto the racetrack. I really wonder, Drew, if these drivers have done some pit practice, because we have seen here green flag pit stops a couple of different times, and they are running the smaller fuel tank. Last week we reported that they were switching to the big full 100% fuel tank for the rest of the season. That doesn't actually apply at the super speedway races. So a little bit of contact there. Oh, Ben Mashburn here in the 24, maybe not seeing quite eye to eye with Tyler Dudley, leaning on each other right there for the fans. But we are going to jump over into the starting grid here tonight. Let's see if we can...
Just let me know when we're reconnecting, and I'll just pick up where I left off.
All right, folks, sorry about that. Seemed like we lost connection to YouTube. Let's see if we can go through the starting lineup here once again. Not sure exactly where YouTube decided to die on us. Hopefully that is the only hiccup that we've had here tonight. Jason Gracias, JT Poole, front row. Tyler Dudley, Andrew Himmelman, row number 2. Ben Izengo, Chris Darling, row number 3. Adam Dama, Kyle Lewis, row number 4. Travis White, Justin White, running as your top 10, Drew.
John Canizaro, 11th. Ben Adams, 12th. Matt Cherry, 13th. Evan Bushbosher in 14th position. Colin Ullery in 15th. James Zorello, a playoff driver, will be rolling off P16 of number 4 of Nick Kessler in P17. Barry Knapp, P18. And Robert Dudley in the number 48 machine rolling off in 19th position. And Stephen Doziak Jr. rounding out our top 20.
Yeah, then 21st position, we got Stan Houseman, Nathan Maurer to his outside, Doug Miller, Ben Mashburn on row number 12. Back behind them, Vincent Valvano, Doug Neal in 26th, Garrett Gleason, Matthew Rodriguez, Jason Shue, and Mitchell Adams rounding out your field here tonight. Great to see Mitchell Adams actually I was hoping to see him out there on the racetrack, but he is not out there on the racetrack. One of your playoff drivers and your reigning series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, not starting at Daytona. That will be definite championship Incas as we are about to see the green flag. And my goodness, the number 15, Tyler Dudley, did not get going. And JT Poole already out to an early lead here, but does he have too big of a jump? Probably not, because his teammate there, Andrew Himmelman, going to suck up to his back bumper as they head off towards turn number 1.
A good initial start for that number 26 machine, but it doesn't necessarily mean much here at Super Speedways. In fact, you typically don't want to get too good of an initial start there if you are the race leader. But that number 15 machine of Tyler Dudley, not Robert Dudley, who is in that 48 machine, but the number 15 machine of Tyler Dudley, who kind of de facto started on the pole position on the first row on the inside. He's not quite keeping up as that high lane, Peter. I was wondering if this high lane would really come in and how long it would take. Seems to be pretty strong early on, as now the number 8 machine looking to go high, not quite able to, as we do have a couple penalties as my apologies, the number 9 machine coming down pit road, as well as one other truck. I couldn't quite make out who that was.
Yeah, the number 9 machine, James Zorello, and his teammate, the S2R07 of Ben Izenga, both coming down pit road right now. So they will have to take that drive-through penalty, and they will be about a half a lap down. Up at the front of the field, though, Andrew Himmelman up at the front saying, I've had enough of being up at the front. He's going to drop down there below the apron and drop to the back of the field. But right now, JT Poole and Chris Darling, 1-2 at the head of the field. Getting word that it seems like the connection is back. Hopefully it stays strong here tonight. For whatever reason, YouTube sometimes just doesn't play nice with me. But up at the front, Chris Darling, he's going for the race lead, and he will go across the start-finish line as your race leader in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs.
Yeah, and that number 11 machine getting a lap led, though, a good position early. That's you want to be in the racing. You want to be up front. I think the 8 was kind of smart to pull out. Didn't necessarily like what he saw, but I don't really like where he came back in. He's kind of in the middle right there. That's not a great place to be. As now we see several other drivers deciding, I don't want anything to do with this. And those include 2 playoff drivers in the number 11 and 26. As they kind of make their way further back. But Peter, if everybody's going to the back, then it kind of defeats the purpose, and there's not going to be any wrecks, so you're just going to end up behind the leaders.
Yeah, and what we are seeing is Justin White, the number 2 machine. He went down there below the apron, and he's definitely in danger of losing the draft here. I think that was a bad mistake there by Justin White. I don't know why these drivers, Drew, are not just kind of going to the top side of the racetrack, and they're going down to the bottom side on the backstretch, as Kyle Lewis is now your race leader here. I'm really surprised that they wouldn't just go to the top side to let people by. Instead, they went down to the low line, could not get merged back up before turn number 3, and now Justin White's in a mess. I'm sure he'll get picked up by the tag team S2R machines of Ben Izenga, James Zorello. They're running about 22 or so seconds behind the pack, but Justin White, all by his lonesome, there he is, about 3 or so seconds behind Jason Shue, who's just tagging on to the lead pack. As you can see, a couple of the drivers right in front of Jason, kind of getting single file, just logging laps because it is a long race here tonight. 100 laps. It says 240 laps. That's what the race was advertised as, but it's going to be 250 miles here at Daytona International Speedway here in the Sim Shots 250. Probably should change the name, but it's the Sim Shots 250 here tonight at Daytona International Speedway. Side by side up at the front as Matt Cherry is your race leader. Ooh, Tyler Dudley there in the 15 getting a little bit sideways. Kyle Lewis might have just used a little bit of avoidance technique to stay off the side of the number 15 machine there, Drew.
Yeah, and only one playoff driver right now or two playoff drivers rather in the top 10. So a lot of those guys kind of taking the cautious approach to this race. My apologies, I assumed with the number 22's green spoiler that he was in the playoffs. He is not. So just one playoff driver in Matt Cherry, who was our race leader, is currently up there right now. But one truck that's made his way to the front quickly, taking advantage of all of these drivers dropping back, is that number 1 machine, our pole sitter, Jason Gracias. He's the third truck on the outside lane, Peter. Yeah,
Gracias definitely showing quite a lot of muscle and a lot of pace in that truck. And, you know, like you said, some drivers are dropping to the back of the field. Meanwhile, Gracias says, you know what? I want to be up at the front. I want to be ahead of the melee. I want to be ahead of that scuffle. Of course, you don't want to be in that scuffle, but Gracias going all the way to the back as Tyler Dudley drops below the yellow line. He comes back up onto the racing surface, getting a little bit close there to Jason Gracias on entry into turn number 1. I'm sure that Tyler Dudley there might just be trying to get a little bit of cooler air onto the nose of number 15. Again, he wiggles down the backstretch. I'm wondering if he's experiencing just a little bit of overheating right now. You see Adam Dama back behind him, but Tyler Dudley right now just needs to hold his line. If he's overheating, he needs to drop to the back of the pack, or else there could be contact with another car. Drew, sometimes when you're on the back straightaway, you're weaving like that. All it takes is a little bit of a wiggle from the car to your outside, maybe trying to do a move or something like that. You make contact, and it's on from there.
Absolutely, there's not a lot of forgiveness in lateral contact with these trucks. Even a little bit of differing sideways momentum bump drafting can lead to a really, really big wreck at these super speedway tracks. But fairly tame racing thus far. But as you mentioned, like as far as overheating's concerned, iRacing typically, I thought Gracias was going to take him 3 wide there for a second. iRacing doesn't really model random mechanical failures. The one kind of mechanical failure, I guess there are 2. They do now model blown tires, which is kind of a newish thing for iRacing. But if you overheat that thing, you can cook that motor and it will pop with very little warning. And that in itself, I've seen cause huge wrecks if that happens to the second car in line. So that is one thing that these guys absolutely are going to have to be mindful of, are those temps when they're pushing the truck in front of them.
Yeah, we have seen that affect some drivers this season, actually, here in 3-Wide TV, that you can overheat your motor if you push a car or truck a little bit too much. As you see Ben Mashburn, he thought about taking it 3 wide. Maybe he was having some overheating there as he kind of dipped to the middle groove. Got some clean air on the nose of that Ford F-150, that's for sure, but not sure what the intentions was. But yeah, you can definitely overheat the motor, and as a driver, you get a couple indications of when it starts to overheat. You can see those gauges there. We ride on board with Adam Dama in the number 82 machine, and those gauges will start to blink. They will start to flash if they start to overheat. So the one just to the right of the right hand of the driver, that's the oil temperature. And then you can't quite see it, but there is a water temperature gauge usually as well. Maybe I'm not seeing it here, but Adam Dama, he's going to back out of it. He said, you know what, I've seen too much of this front pack, and they're really racing. He's going to drop to the back of the field. Or maybe he was having some overheating issues in the number 82 Army Esports racing machine, but as you can see, Drew comes back up onto the racing track and gets really, really slideways as he did not blend onto the racetrack all too smoothly, and that can happen and can sometimes ruin your race.
Absolutely. You can, and it sometimes isn't even a caution, but you can just kind of self-spin, damage the truck, and you are fighting an uphill battle after that. But up front, the number 1 machine really shook up these front few guys as the number 22 got cycled out, the 18 got cycled out, and now all of a sudden that number 1 machine is our race leader. But looking back on we were looking back on Ben Izenga and that number 9 machine of James Rella, who have dropped back significantly and have a uphill battle that they are facing. But Peter, one thing that we need to keep in the back of our minds is that stage break. Do you know what lap that's happening?
Lap number 35 is the magic number here tonight. So if we go green flag, we will definitely see green flag pit stops prior to the one and only stage caution that we're going to have here tonight. And I wonder if there's a couple of these drivers out there, maybe not a playoff driver, but maybe one of these drivers who has a couple of teammates, because Drew, like I do, those playoff drivers, they're going to want to get those points at the stage break, because they're still going to be awarding stage points to the drivers inside the top 10 when the one and only stage caution comes out on lap number 35. So we will, like I said, see green flag pit stops, but I wonder if maybe some of these drivers will come down a little bit earlier, knowing that that stage caution and when it's going to come out. We're hearing maybe, nope, never mind. I take that back. I was going to say someone came down pit road, but I think they just kind of bled off the racetrack. Someone thought they were heading down, or not someone, but the software I have thought they were coming down pit road. They did not. That was Evan Bushbosher in his number 22 machine. Going to be around the 10th position right there. But a little bit of side-by-side action as Matt Cherry trying to force his way to the front with a little bit of help from Travis White here down the backstretch.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the field, Peter. The vast majority of this field has gone single file here on lap 13. Not very atypical for Daytona to go single file. I think it has a more of a propensity to go single file than Talladega. Just a bit of a narrower surface. Daytona here, 40 feet wide, not very wide when you're considering the speeds that these guys are going at. But now only 4 trucks are on that outside lane. Now back to 3 trucks as that 48 machine tucks back in line. And that does not really bode well for those guys on the outside. You have to work really, really hard in manipulating the side draft of those guys on the inside if you only have 2 or 3 guys with you to just not fall back like a bag of rocks. There was a little bit of a gap between the 18 and the 48. It's going to be interesting to see if that number 23 or 38 try to slide in there. Ooh, I think that second car on the outside lane thought about it, but didn't quite make that work. And Peter, sometimes you have to be really aggressive when you think your position on that outside lane isn't very workable. You got to get back down on that inside lane before you lose a ton of spots.
Oh yeah, that is for sure. It can be one of those things where if you're stuck out there all by your lonesome, you'll see some drivers be extremely aggressive, Drew, to get back to the main pack, the main line that everyone else is running, because like you said, you could end up going from first all the way back to 30th pretty darn quickly. If everyone's lined up, they're not giving you any space to get in. Yeah, that's what will happen. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll pick up someone who will decide to give you a little bit of drafting help, but like we just saw back there, there's not a lot of help right now on the high line. You got the Travis White there, you got Bushbosher, as we have a couple of drivers. Looks like the Sim Shots Racing team coming down pit road, trying to not speed. I think they made it on pit road. This is the 62, Colin Ullery, John Cannizzaro, the number 10 right there, Andrew Himmelman and Ben Adams all coming to their pit box. So what they're doing here, Drew, is kind of what I half thought was going to happen, was that they were going to kind of split the first stage in half, but they're going to come out with only 4 trucks all by their lonesome, which could be interesting. We saw last night in the GTR Simulator Super Speedway Series that 3 trucks seem to be able to hold on really well versus a big pack of trucks. So there's only 4 of the SimShots Racing Team trucks going down pit road. I'm wondering if that's going to be a little bit different, although here comes another gaggle of trucks coming to pit road. Jason Gracias, Ben Mashburn, Kyle Lewis coming on to pit road, Bushbosher, Dama, Barry Knapp as well, Garrett Gleason back there, Steven Doziak, Vincent Valvano, all these trucks coming down to their pit box, so that will kind of get about half the field on pit road now as the race is led by the number 38 of Matt Cherry, continuing to circulate around this famed 2.5-mile world center of racing in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yeah, and kind of one thing I've been keeping my eye on, Peter, are those three trucks, or two trucks, and James Dorello and Ben Izinga that were penalized in the number 2, who fell back pretty early on. And those guys were able to maintain about 21 seconds between themselves and the race leader. Only 3 trucks, so I think that kind of confirms what you were thinking. But one thing that's been kind of surprising to me, I don't want to give anybody the commentator's curse, but how cordial these guys have been on pit road and how consistent and kind of courteous they've been with one another. I haven't seen any major mistakes. And Peter, this is a track that, as the 11 does not get a kazoo. Unfortunate for Chris Darling. A little bit of a slip up there. I don't think that'll hurt him too much with fuel only in that number 11 machine. But this can be a really tricky pit road, Peter, because you just don't have a lot of markers as far as I know here. That's when I need to brake. And when you're racing around other trucks, some guys in front of you are let off a little bit early. Some guys come like a freight train behind you and get in really late. It can be a really treacherous ordeal getting on a pit road.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It can be. That is 100% for sure. Also hearing that maybe something has happened to Tyler Dudley. We're on board right now with John Cannizzaro as he's going to blow on by JT Poole and that group of trucks. So once again, the Sim Shots racing team doing a fantastic job here of getting their trucks out front. We saw great pit work by them last night, only to be dethroned by some pit strategy at Talladega Superspeedway in the GTR Simulator Superspeedway Series. So once again, great pit work by them again. Tonight in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, you see they just blew on past the Beer Street Journal machine, just getting up to racing speed right now. Let's see if we can figure out what actually happened to driver of the number 15 machine, Tyler Dudley, and see whether or not there was any type of mishap or anything coming back up onto the racetrack. Maybe it was a false positive. No, it wasn't. Oh, man, Drew, just too much beans, and the 15 just went around, looped it right there. No caution as it was off the racing surface.
Yeah, it's something that you can definitely do at Daytona, getting off pit road. You really have to have that wheel in it dead straight before you completely get on the gas getting off pit road, because those rear tires are going to spin up a little bit. And you see he's still turning left right there. He was turning left when he throttled up, and that rear end just over-rotated on him, spun him around, and not completely disastrous, luckily, because of this stage brake. But, Peter, if that happens post-stage brake and there's not a caution, your race, as far as competing for the race win, is absolutely ruined.
Yeah, as you see Ben Mashberg going for the race lead. One thing I was going to mention here, Drew, is that the field is extremely broken up right now. We got this lead group of trucks, which is all the way from right now John Cannizzaro in the number 10 machine back to, I think that's Nick Kessler. It is Nick Kessler right there in the number 4. And then you have about a 4-second gap to this group led by Nathan Maurer, Doug Neal, and Matt Cherry in this group, a couple of your playoff drivers. So they're kind of hanging out right now outside the top 10. They want to be inside the top 10 to pick up points. And then you go back to Stan Hausman in the number 39. He's being caught by Barry Knapp, Kyle Lewis, Steven Doziak Jr., Evan Bushbosher, Garrett Gleason, Vincent Valvano, and Adam Dama. This little group of trucks, and of course with the number 39 machine there of Stan Hausman, Beer Street Journal, one of your playoff drivers right now, being scored in the 21st position, but he is not the playoff driver that is the furthest back on the scoring pile, and that would be Ben Izinga and his teammate James Lorello running 26th and 27th right now. But you see they picked up some friends there. Tyler Dudley, we saw what just happened to him. Justin White there in that mix as well, including your race leader, who is still out there, has yet to pit. That is the number 3 machine of Jason Shu. Will we see Shu come down pit road this time? No, we will not. So I think Shu is going to tell us, Drew, what the pit window is like here tonight at Daytona International Speedway here in the Sim Shots 250.
He certainly is attempting to stretch that as much as possible, as it looks like he's just in maybe behind the group with Ben Izinga, James Borello, Tyler Dudley, all 3 of them, along with Justin White, 4 trucks running together back there. I think that number 3 is just on the tail end of that group trying to make that work, but he is losing 2 to 3 seconds a lap relative to these guys up front. The number 10, who is the leader of this group, is absolutely flying. You would think that this side-by-side racing would really be kind of slowing these guys up. They're actually pulling away from that second group in the 9, led by the 971 of Nathan Maurer, with Doug Neal, his teammate, working with him as well. So a really good job by these guys to not only keep pulling away, but to do it while racing side by side. Typically, that just gives the pack more drag and slows you down even more.
Yeah, that is very true. And these trucks here, they are racing extremely hard, and probably because they know that stage is coming up. It's in about 12 laps from right now when we'll see the one and only stage caution, where stage points will be awarded. But man, look at Ben Mashburn wiggling it sideways there in the Big Mac tonight. Bill Elliott throwback in the Ford F-150 right there with Jason Gracias behind him. My, oh my, Drew, that little bit of 3 wide, it looked a little bit hairy.
Yeah, a little bit of weaving going on, and I can just imagine if you're the number 8 machine or the 11 of Chris Darling behind him, a couple playoff guys that were mixed up in that. They were like, no. Oh, almost contact between the front bumper of the 24 and the 62 when Mashburn made that move on Ullery. That was almost an absolute disaster for these front runners. But it all worked out. But Peter, I think that that's a real taste of what's going to come once we get this group bunched back together, probably going green on lap 38, 39, 40. I think that's going to reset this field, and I think we're going to see a lot of those moves, because after that, there's no guaranteed caution, and these guys are going to have to absolutely earn every position out on track. Why are we taking a look at that number 3 machine? He came down pit road. Where's he running, Pete?
Yeah, Jason Shu did come down pit road. You can see he's slotting in with the group of trucks that he was actually racing with. Think that Jason Shu took 4 tires on the number 3, and that is why he had a long pit stop, currently being scored in the 28th position right now. Don't see any other major differences between Jason Shu and some of these other trucks that he raced around in his pit lane time, just the fact that he took 4 tires. Most people did not. So back up into what is now the lead pack. Ben Mashburn leads the race over John Cannizzaro. Ben Adams is the highest place of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series Playoff Series drivers here in the Sim Shots 250 at the Daytona International Speedway. Race number 1, if you're just now joining us, of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series Playoffs. We only have 2 races to determine who's going to make it into the round of 7, then another 2 races to make it into the championship drives. The championship drivers that, of course, will race it out for the championship here in just a couple weeks' time. Drew, closing in on this 2021 B season here quite quickly.
We certainly are. I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, only really a few races left. How quickly time flies when you're having fun covering these outstanding races. Every Friday night has been Mashburn of the number 24 machine now in the race lead, as most of the field has gone single file. The number 1 is the lone driver on that outside lane right now. But Peter, when this cycle first kind of played out, the 971 through the number 6 of Doug Milner. So the 971 running in 10th position, and then Doug Milner, the number 6 machine, running in 16th. So 6 trucks right there, or rather 7 as the math works out. Have lost 3.5 seconds over the course of this run to this top 9. That really shows the difference. You might be able to maintain with 3 trucks, but I think that if you are battling with 3 trucks versus 9 trucks, there is obviously a substantial speed difference, even with only 2 additional trucks running in this front pack. That's a pretty crazy speed difference over the course of this run.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A little bit surprising there, but we're closing in. Another lap gone by. We do have, it looked like, 1 truck there heading down pit road. Who was that? It was Justin White here, who will go 1 lap down, coming to his pit box right now. Not sure if he's calling it night done or exactly what the number 2 is playing at right now. He will reach his pit box, and the crew will presumably go to work unless he has decided to call it a night. But we do, of course, have the Lucky Dog here, brought to you by our friends over at Brookstone Animal Hospital. So even if he is a lap down here in a couple laps and we get that stage caution, currently he is the only truck 1 or more laps down. But yeah, he's getting back out there onto the racetrack. So not sure what that was with the number 2 Simbox machine, but he will be getting up to racing speed here very shortly. Hopefully he can pick up that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award here in just about 5 laps from now, when we'll have our one and only stage caution at the 1/3 or so race distance. That's usually when the stage caution comes out, just around that 1/3 point of the race. As you see, Andrew Himmelman in the number 8 in prime position here, Drew, to pick up some playoff points, but it is Ben Adams currently who would pick up the most stage break points here in a couple of laps if things stay the way they are as they run. Of course, I hate the as they run graphics, because they, especially at a track like Daytona, Drew, they'll be changing basically every single lap as they work their way around the track.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I can guarantee about tonight, is where they're running right now is not the exact position the field will finish the race in. So, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of hypothetical and like, oh man, who was the number 24? Had to check up or something. Really slow on that inside lane was that number 24 machine of Ben Mashburn. That allowed Jason Gracias and that number 11 of Chris Darling, along with the 4 and JT Poole, to carry the momentum on the high lane. And that was a big checkup for that number 24. Now all of a sudden, he's at the tail end of that bottom lane, and this whole front group is just really shaken up.
Yeah, and right now, it is the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias who is butt-kicking the field. That's right. Doing that butt-kicker challenge here tonight is the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias. And he started on the pole by winning the Craig Setup Shop pole shootout. Dropped to the tail end of the field, and here he is on lap number 32, pushing his way to the front. Drew, that is one fast hot rod here at Daytona. He's going to be one that these drivers are going to have to watch out for late in the race. He's already won here once this season, knows how to get the job done. Can he go 2 for 2 here on the season tonight?
We certainly have seen him not lack in want or drive tonight. He just has kind of less to lose than especially those trucks with the green banners on them. So it'll be really interesting to see now the number 26 and 11 coming down pit road here, Peter. I wonder if all of these guys are short on fuel, and that's why we saw the number 2 pit. That's the guys who pitted that first round, I think, are maybe going to be the first round of pit stops, rather, are maybe going to be a little short here. It's lap 33 now, Peter. I thought these guys surely can make it on one stop.
I have no idea what the number 11 is doing here of Chris Darling, or the number 26 right beside him. I mean, JT Poole and Chris Darling, they were inside the top 10. They're just about to pick up stage points here in just a couple of laps. Were they really that short on fuel? I can't imagine they were. We saw driver of the number 3 machine go 23 laps. They pitted on lap number 17, so you'd think they would be able to go to at least lap number 40, which would have been just enough. That is a shocker. That is absolutely, for sure, a shocker here to give up stage points in the playoffs. You don't want to give up any points, regardless of where you are, but especially if you're one of the playoff drivers. as it looks like Ben Mashburn and Ben Adams, a couple of the Bens possibly banging doors off of one another there down the backstretch. Things picking up here at Daytona as we move in on the stage break here in about a lap and a half.
Absolutely. The level of aggression has really ratcheted up in the last lap. And Peter, there's only a couple reasons that I can think why they would do it. Number one, they're doing the road course pit before the caution, then we get out ahead. I don't know why you would do that here at Daytona because the field mixes up so quickly. It's track position's not that important, but maybe they just wanted to get out of this mess here, Peter, with these guys being so aggressive here as we start the final lap of this stage. Maybe they think, these guys are going to be a little aggressive. We don't want to be in this mess. That's the only real reason I could think of that I would actually agree with. But the number 10, John Cannizzaro leading that inside lane, Ben Mashburn on that high lane. What are these playoff guys going to do? Oh, as the number 1 of Jason Gracias gets dead sideways and goes into the infield grass, but I think he's going to be okay. He has enough room to kind of merge back on track, but that was a hairy moment out front as Mashburn looking to get around John Cannizzaro for the stage win. A great run on the outside for that number 24 machine, but Cannizzaro's going to hold him off to take the stage win here at Daytona.
Yeah, John Cannizzaro just able to hold on. We'll see that caution flag come out here very shortly, I am sure. Still no caution flag. I'm sure there it goes. Finally, that caution flag comes out. Jason Gracias, he's going to fall all the way back to the 13th position, but a great save out of the number 1 machine. Let's go check that out, Drew. Let's see if we can see what sent Jason Gracias down there below that yellow line. Here we are on the backstretch. Got John Cannizzaro in front of him. Maybe was it a bad bump or something? Ooh, yeah, definitely a bad bump. He got shot from behind. Must have been by Ben Adams. And luckily, Gracias just able to keep it there below that yellow line. Let's see if we can get one more look at that one here on the 3-wide TV replay. There is Ben Adams right behind him. Just wait for that bump to send him a little sideways, and it's right there. Just the nudge gets him loose in through the grass. Great job holding on to it.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about earlier, Peter, that lateral difference in speed, the sideways difference in speed between the guy getting bumped and the guy bumping can cause a wreck even on the straightaways. Sometimes it doesn't even take sideways impact. It's just a little off center and a little bit, the one kind of maybe fading down low, the truck behind him fading up high maybe a little bit, and then boom, just a slight nudge. And, I think if there were more trucks involved, Peter, I would imagine that might have caused a wreck from just people then freaking out and kind of overreacting to what happened to the number 1 machine. I think the field in general is relatively fortunate that happened at that moment with that few cars around him. And once again, that the number 8 machine and the number 5, they're like, can we not be doing that here, folks? We got a little bit more that we're racing for up front. But Peter, the guys around him that aren't in the playoffs, now it's just about race wins, and this is exactly the type of mentality I expect from them. But it's going to be interesting to see who comes down pit road, who doesn't. The one thing we do know is that number 2 machine is going to be our Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner.
Yeah, that is for sure. There is that number 2 machine of Justin White. We were just mentioning there before the caution flag came out that he was in that position to get back onto the lead lap, and sure enough, on to the lead lap once again he goes. Okay, on pit road right now, we got some interesting things going on. Nick Kessler might have missed his pit stall, seeing indeed he did. Then we got a whole bunch of playoff drivers. Oh, contact Ben Izenga, playoff driver, around right in the middle of pit lane. He's trying to get to his pit box, does so, and more contact. JT Poole, championship driver, gets run over from behind by Robert Dudley, and Matt Cherry also has a lot of damage. My, oh my, what craziness. That's the wrong button. What the heck just happened?
Yeah, normally iRacing decides that the cars are translucent as far as physics are concerned on pit road, and then randomly, occasionally, it decides they're solid, and you cannot, in fact, go through one another's trucks. And I think that's exactly what happened right here is everybody's checking up, and there's just going to be, big impacts right there. Luckily, with the 26, I think that's just solidly on the rear bumper. I think he's going to be okay. But the number 24 machine really torn up. The 07 of Izenga, it's going to be interesting to see how that damage affects him. Sometimes stuff that's not so significant visually can be super significant regarding pace. But here you go. The number 24 kind of merging up high, the 07 trying to enter his pit box. And boom, almost a classic pit maneuver right there, Peter. If that's a high-speed pursuit, that 07 is his pursuit is done. But unfortunately, not for these guys. And that just resulted in quite a bit of damage for quite a few trucks.
Yeah, and that one is one of those that is extremely difficult to call. If you're an admin here in this series, Ben Mashburn was in the slow lane there, Drew, and he kind of, usually the slow lane has to give up the position, but usually in iRacing, like you said, you can usually just drive straight through cars on pit road. You see Matt Cherry, the number 38, bottom right-hand corner of your screen, one of the playoff drivers involved in that. We had 3 playoff drivers involved. We had Ben Izenga, the 07, we had Matt Cherry, the 38, we had JT Poole in the 26, so 3 of the 10 playoff drivers all involved in that pit road collision. The only contact we see, and Chris Darling overshot his pit stall again. That's the second time here tonight. But interestingly, Drew, Chris Darling was back on pit road. We just saw him on pit road a couple laps ago, and that was really interesting. And we're back live here as both Matt Cherry and Ben Izenga coming into their pit stall right now. Chris Darling just leaving his pit stall again. Robert Dudley on pit road, getting some damage fixed from that contact. You see front end damage and rear end damage on that number 48 truck. In fact, that's a lot of front end damage there, Drew. Matt Cherry's not looking all too bad in his number 38. They're kind of a little bit lower on your screen. He's going to get back rolling, but definitely a lot of damage dealt out in that collision there.
Yeah, quite a bit. And these guys that are on pit road, they have a lot of work to do to catch up to this field, who is now doubling up, coming out of turn 4 to retake the green flag, as the green flag is in the flagman's hands. The 38 truck is certainly not going to catch the field. That is fairly disastrous for him. But John Cannizzaro controls this restart. A good restart, but the guy behind him, that number 24 machine, quite a bit of front end damage. It'll be interesting to see how that affects Ben Mashburn.
Yeah, for sure, because Mashburn got that contact when he and the 07 of Ben Izenga got together. Izenga is in this lead group as well. Now starting to see things shake up just a little bit up towards the front of the field. Maybe 3 wide there for just a second. Mashburn, almost making contact with Colin Ullery. That was almost a big contact. And Drew, the one spot you don't want to have contact is right up at the front of the field, because that's how the really big ones happen. Oh, and they're still banging doors, the 24 and the 62. Really tight. Jason Gracias has seen enough of that. I think he says, you know what, I'm just going to back out, because the 24 and the 62, they've almost wrecked each other twice here in a single lap.
Yeah, some aggressive driving up front, considering we're only on lap 41, but you can't win the race if you set yourself up from failure, even on lap 41. You do have to be aggressive and assertive with your positioning of your truck, because if you just let everybody kind of, pass you and get by you, you're not setting yourself up for success, especially given how drawn out this thing has tended to be as pit stop cycles have occurred. But one thing that's kind of surprising, that number 24 seems relatively up to pace here, Peter.
Yeah, that number 24, it seems like he is. We'll see what he can do now that he's leading the inside groove. Definitely looks all right with help from a very fast number 1 machine of Jason Gracias, but it seems like the field is not exactly willing to work with him right now, as the Highline has numbers. But as I say that, here comes James Dorello into the top 10 for the first time here tonight, as he has some evasive maneuvers there. Once again, the field really racy here, as we have 102.5 miles in the book here in the 250-mile race. And James Dorello, I think he saw what was going on. He's going to back off, and he's going to try and drop to the tail end of the field. He has to get back up onto the racetrack. Doesn't want to do what happened to Travis White earlier in the race. Colin Ullery, another look to the inside of John Cannizzaro. They're still racing extremely hard.
Yeah, there's not a lot of chase drivers up front, so if I weren't a chase driver, I really kind of don't have a ton to lose by being super aggressive. Especially when I'm not kind of directly racing those chase guys. If those chase guys get caught up in a wreck, that you're not racing them in a disrespectful way. That's just unfortunate. But I think that these non-chase guys are just going to be aggressive and try to get up there and really mix it up and race and have fun, because that is a lot of fun. Being aggressive here at Daytona, it can be very quickly no longer very fun. But, we certainly haven't seen a lack of aggression. But just like that, Peter, these guys are mixing it up 3 wide about a lap and a half ago, and now the front 10 or so are single file.
Yeah, you have to go all the way back to Matthew Rodriguez right there in the Steak and Shake Toyota Tundra. It was the first truck side by side, but as I say that is no longer the case. Let's check in on some of the other trucks involved. And what has happened here to Chris Darling? The number 11 machine, something must have happened to him, and he has left the racing surface. What has happened to one of our playoff drivers here towards the back of the pack? Something must have happened here, Drew. I know he was towards the back of the pack once we restarted and went back green, but we must have missed something, because he wasn't... I don't think he was that badly damaged. I don't think he was damaged in the accident. Still trying to see what might have happened here with his machine. We remain green flag right now. I think I'm going to have to go all the way back to the restart. Maybe he was damaged. I didn't see any damage on the number 11, but maybe there was a lot of damage on the number 11 machine. Okay, this is back on the restart. What happened to Chris Darling here, Drew? You can see he was back in the pack right now, and just a stack up. Gets into the back of the 2 of Justin White. What happened there? Maybe the inside line didn't get going. Maybe he tried to anticipate the restart or something, but that is night done for driver of the number 11.
Yeah, it looked like, guys, and this is kind of one of my super, super pet peeves, are playing games on the restart and trying to anticipate it instead of just accelerating when the field starts to go. And then when that happens, you have to get on the brake. The guy behind you accelerates because you accelerated, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then unfortunately for the number 11 and the number 2 machines back there, who aren't trying to get a jump, they're just trying to go when the field goes. And then all of a sudden, watch, the 00 just slams on the brakes, and there's just nothing that the 2 and the 11 can necessarily do. That 00 had a lot more room to work with, so he didn't have to slam on his brakes like that and kind of stack the field up behind him, where there was nothing that the 2 and the 11 could do. And that's super unfortunate for Chris Darling. Is watch this truck just stop in front of him.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
We have to get one more look at this, Drew. Let's go back maybe a little bit further. Maybe the 00 missed a shift here, because look, he's given plenty of room to the 7 in front. Yes, he kind of closes in there. I don't think he missed the shift. I think you're right. I think he just closed in. And this is one where we're going to have to kind of put it into the 3-wide TV slow-mo. I know, folks, we're missing a lot of live action, but you see him closing in on the back of Garrett Gleason, stalls out right there. Then look at the number 2 machine, thinks it's green flag. He jumps to the outside. Chris Darling goes with him. And it's just a bang-bang play. And unfortunately for Chris Darling, it was a little bit too much bang. As, folks, we are now back live. And up at the front of the field, John Cannizzaro is leading the race. You see the outside line starting to form up just a little bit. So a little bit more side-by-side action than when we left you last. So that's the good news here as we close in on the halfway mark here at the Daytona International Speedway in the Sim Shots 250.
Yeah, starting lap 48 as of that last time by John Cannizzaro, who led on this restart, doing a really good job maintaining his track position in that number 10 machine, with James Lorello just 1 number less and 1 number higher on track outside in P2. And a kind of a noteworthy truck up there on that high lane, Peter, is that number 07 of Ben Izinga, as they lap Matt Cherry, who could not catch the field there in that number 38 machine after making that late pit stop under caution. He's going to try to hang on here and hopefully pick up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award if we get a caution, but that certainly is not a given. But a really good recovery, Peter, by this number 07 of Izinga.
Yeah, that 07 of Izinga, I was expecting him to be quite heavily damaged after that contact on pit road. Seems like he kind of got the good end of the stick. Just looking to see how some of the other drivers are faring. Matt Cherry in the number 38, currently 1 lap down, but is in the position. Oh, Tyler Dudley in the outside wall. The number 15, we have seen him be a little bit unstable here tonight. And right there, coming out of turn number 2 up into the outside wall. Let's see what happened here, whether or not there was any contact or anything, but I think it was all on his own reconnaissance that he just kind of went up into the wall.
Yeah, just kind of drifted a little high into that outside wall. Luckily, didn't really cause any big problems, but I think that that's going to allow this this front group, which consists of about the top 10, to really break away from the rest of this field. Unfortunately, that number 26 machine of JT Poole, who was damaged under caution, was just not quite up to speed and was just losing a little bit, as the number 15 still struggling a little bit there on that bottom lane as he's getting freight train now. As I think now, there we go, we're seeing the second pack close up, but I think that 26 is a little bit more damaged than we initially thought, Peter. He was having a really hard time keeping up with this front group.
Yeah, that is absolutely for sure. Okay, but speaking of the front group, there is James Lorello, and we are halfway home this time, 125 miles in the books. And who will lead the halfway lap? I think it will be the number 9 of Lorello, but only by a fraction of an inch as his teammate, the 07 of Izenga, to his outside. And ironically here, Drew, Ben Izenga and Ben Mashburn, the 2 drivers involved in that pit road scuffle, working together now on that high line.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that the 2 drivers who instigated, since it happened in the past, the incident on pit road seemed to be okay. It's everybody else who was involved, unfortunately, that is kind of suffering rather than these 2, as the field rapidly approaches the number 2 truck, which was damaged on that restart incident. And no big dramas, it looks like, as they go 3 wide coming into the tri-oval. And Peter, that tri-oval, especially when you're going 3 wide, it feels like it's substantially narrower than the rest of the track, even though I don't think it is.
Yeah, you are right. It just, the way you kind of come through there, it just feels like it narrows up. I think it's kind of the feel that you get in your wheel through there just kind of puts you on edge. And I've been through there many times, been involved in many accidents through that portion of the racetrack. It really is Daytona, I should say. It's not as easy as it looks. It isn't just like Talladega. In my opinion, Drew, Talladega has always been relatively easy. The only thing that I can say, the only version of Talladega that's I've ever struggled at was the in-game version of Talladega in NASCAR Racing 2003 season, where no matter what you did out of turn number 2, you'd push up into the wall like a dump truck. It was just something wrong with that version of the racetrack. But here at Daytona, it can be very difficult. We talk about the bumpy track, the bumpy version of Daytona, the legacy version that was scanned back around the year 2007. That one is an absolute slugfest to work your way around. This one's a little bit easier, but it is still quite a bit more difficult than Talladega because it just isn't as wide, and there are certain points that can really trip you up.
Yeah, I think that the very bottom lane through the tri-oval at Talladega can get a little hairy sometimes, depending on what position you put yourself in. That's about it. I mean, as long as you kind of stay away from that, you're going to be fine. And in most cars, I think, and in most situations, that's fine. Sometimes I have had more than one hairy moment, though, on that bottom lane through the tri-oval that it feels like has less grip or banking or something than the rest of the track. But here at Daytona, the thing's just so narrow that 3 wide is a substantial challenge. Speaking of, as the number 1 machine goes by and forces a 3 wide with Doug Neal, who unfortunately is getting lapped. So Peter, that makes 3 chase drivers that are at least 1 lap, actually 4 chase drivers because of Mitchell Adams not starting tonight, that have had some misfortune and are at least 1 lap down.
Yeah, and of course for Mitchell Adams, that's what he wants to see, because he, of course, not able to make the race here tonight. That was also Robert Dudley off the pace down there on the bottom side of the racetrack. You can see him right there with all that damage that he picked up on pit road. Really off the pace and probably about to park that truck. But that's what, going back to my point, that's what Mitchell Adams wanted to see. He wanted to see other chase drivers struggle, other playoff drivers, I should say, because he wasn't able to start the race. So Christopher Darling, he's struggling here tonight. He's off the racetrack. Of course, we got Matt Cherry, who's a lap down. We got Doug Neal, who's a lap down. So like you said, 4 drivers in the playoffs already off the lead lap here as we have just 46 laps to go. New poll in the chat here. The poll is, how many cautions do you think we will see in the second half of the race? We only had 1 caution in the first half, being the stage break. Folks in the chat, jump in. We want to hear from you. How many cautions do you think we'll see? 0, 1, 2, or 3 or more? Currently, the 3 or more option is leading with 2 votes to 1. The 1 vote being for 2, as this might not be helping that. As Ben Bashburn right in the middle of 3 wide here, Drew, coming down the backstretch.
Oh, in the number 23. Oh, man, got a little sideways right there. Yeah, but Adam Dama and Mashburn were real close through 1 and 2. That was certainly a hairy moment, as is this right here. Mashburn certainly sticking his nose in holes that are very tight, as now we're seeing quite a few trucks pull off on the pit lane. It looks like those I thought the 24 was going to get the 23 right there, but stay green. The Sim Shots team coming down pit road with each other, and a few drivers like JT Poole as well. Look like they're all trying to work together and maybe break away from the rest of this pack.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting call here, Drew, as a good old cameraman there behind the bleachers there. We saw earlier in the race a couple of drivers go 20, 21 laps, something like that. We got 24 laps to go. Sorry, not 24. 44 laps to go. Gosh, my math. But at 44 laps to go, I think you can still make it from here on only 1 more pit stop, but it's going to be a little bit tight for the drivers that just stayed out. They can now go a couple more laps, and they won't have to worry about fuel as much, especially if we have a late race. What if we get a Beer Street Journal last call? You're going to want to have every single drop of fuel in the tank that you can get if we get a Beer Street Journal last call here tonight. That is not out of the picture. So Izenga, Lorello, Gracias, Mashburn, all of those drivers have been out there between 19 to 20 laps inside the top 5. But I just don't know why you would have just come down pit road. I feel like you're possibly setting yourself up for some late race heartburn on fuel. And of course, last night's race here in the National Sim Racing Association, the GTR Simulator Super Speedway Series, we saw a fuel mileage race where a couple of drivers, Drew, were able to save on fuel to make it all the way to the end. Now we got some more drivers peeling off to come down pit road, led by Jason Gracias. We'll get rid of the graphic right there. Gracias, Mashburn, and Matthew Rodriguez down there were 3 wide coming to their pit stall. Hopefully we don't see any more pit road mishaps. We know Gracias has to go all the way down to the end of pit road in order for him to get to his pit crew, as of course he was the Craig Setup Shop Pole Award winner at the top of the show. But for right now, I'm just seeing Ben Izenga, James Arello, the only 2 trucks really left out there, although they do have the number 2 machine right back behind him. That is Justin White, as well as Doug Neal in the 77. So they'll be kind of working together here, but I expect to see them on pit road this time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if these guys stretch the fuel. Doesn't look like it. I was going to say, it would be really interesting to see if those guys stretch their fuel mileage a little bit, and then we'll see if those trucks working together could have maybe made that strategy work, but not the case, as the number 9 and the number 07 come down pit lane. But Peter, this might actually cost them a lot more than we think. It's only 2 laps after the first group, 1 lap after that second group, but they had very little draft help and were quite a bit off the pace. I think the field is maybe strung out enough to where they'll be okay, but it's going to be probably a little hairy for those 2 as far as catching the field is concerned. As the field now enters the front stretch, now the tri-oval, and you're going to see those trucks coming off of pit road through 1 and 2 here shortly. That's the number 9 in the distance. Yeah, there you go. Out front is the number 9. We're riding on board with Izinga, and I think you're going to see the vast majority of this field fly by potentially, Peter. Actually, not too bad. I think they're going to be okay. You want the field behind you when you get on the backstretch, and you're typically going to be able to keep up with the pack. I thought that they were going to lose a lot more ground than they did.
And now the big problem for the pack that's catching him, they're too wide. And you have Izenga in the 07 who's not quite up to pace yet. Looks like they're able to kind of sort things out and let Izenga in this group. Now they're catching James Arello, and they're going to have to go 3 wide up at the front of the field for this. Matt Cherry is currently on the cusp of being a lap down. He's not your race leader. It is Travis White, the Simbox number 23, who leads the race right now. Lorello and Izenga able to slot in to the lead pack. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of your playoff trucks in this lead pack. And Stan Hausman, I think, is back there in that number 39 machine. So good job by Stan to get on and off pit road. The Beer Street Journal Ford F-150. We're riding on board with him right now. But Drew, some great pit stops out of this group of drivers. We mentioned that we had 6 lead lap playoff drivers because, of course, Matt Cherry is not on the lead lap. He's in the front of the pack right now. I guess technically he is on the lead lap, but whoa, a little bit of a wiggle out the back of the number 8 of Andrew Himmelman. Got a love tap from Colin O'Leary. Almost sent him up into the outside wall.
Almost disastrous results from teammates, nonetheless, between Drew Himmelman and Colin O'Leary in the number 8 and 62 machines, as we will take a look at just exactly what happened. Oh, yeah, that's, again, the tri-oval is one of the hairiest places on this track, and to get a bump like that through the tri-oval, that's a heck of a save for that number 8 machine. Is now those two who almost wrecked the last time by now out front. Those two teammates leaving the S2R teammates on the high lane, but it looks like Izenga and Lorello were really making that high lane work right now.
Yeah, they are working together really well. I'm just wondering how much the number 9's engine is overheating with him being tucked up behind his teammate that closely for about the last lap and a half or so. You see them kind of break apart just a little bit, maybe to allow the number 9 to get some clean air on the nose. Just checking through the field to see if we've had any pit road speeding penalties. We saw a long stop out of Tyler Dudley. You see Adam Dama there going 1 lap down in the Army Esports racing machine. Drew, I think that's because Adama took tires on that number 82 machine. You don't want to take tires here at Daytona unless you absolutely have to. Dama had a 15-second pit stop. The other drivers possibly taking tires, Vincent Valvano in the 00, you see him kind of all by his, well, not all by his lonesome, but kind of in a 3-truck train out there, not definitely lapping as fast as your front couple. And this is them up at the front of the field just to bring up the bottom right-hand graphic to see kind of how the field is broken up as they run right now. See the field catching another lap truck. That is the number 6 machine of Doug Milliner running 24th position, about to fall a lap down. You can see him there, the left side of your screen, the Louisville Cardinals Ford F-150. He's going to stay to the high side and just predictably stay up there so the field can go on by him. You'll see him jump down behind the lead pack as he will hope to hang on to the lead group. But for right now, it is Andrew Himmelman with Colin O'Leary tucked up behind him, currently 1-2 here as we are into the final 100 miles here tonight at Daytona International Speedway. The Sim Shots 250 laps clicking off very, very quickly.
Yeah, and this race can go by really quickly if there aren't a ton of cautions. And one thing I've really noticed, Peter, is it felt like these guys kind of figured out, oh, is the number 9 weaving all over the track right there. It seemed like he maybe lost his bearing. Sometimes if you stare on that tailgate of the truck in front of you, you kind of target fixate and you start weaving around trying to match that truck, and that's exactly what can happen. This is a neat little view right there. But it seems like these guys kind of figured out exactly what they needed to do on their pit stops in the first stage, because they did an exceptional job keeping together on this last round of pit stops, Peter. This is a substantially larger field as far as guys in the lead pack. We only had 9 trucks on that lead pack initially, and this time is, the 15 again as the lap truck gets up into the wall. But this time by, we have 11 trucks on this front pack, and 14 trucks within basically drafting distance of this front pack. So a really good job by this this group last time by.
Yeah, because we definitely saw them get strung out under that last green flag round of pit stops that we had. So here comes the field coming out of turn number 4 to the start-finish line here. It is Ben Izenga, James Zarello, currently 1-2 at the front of the field. You see Andrew Himmelman there just a little bit further back as we bring out the drone cams here. We'll see if the turn number 1 and 2 drone, it's just not getting any altitude or something. Maybe the air is a bit too humid. Maybe it's a little bit too hot. Maybe the air just a little bit too thin for our turn 1 and 2 drone to actually do anything. We will get the drone repaired for next week. But anyway, down the backstretch right now, James Zarello, Drew, he's kind of, was in the sucker hole, I thought. But look at Kyle Lewis slinging it down to the bottom side behind Matthew Rodriguez, as Rodriguez now starting to creep towards the front of the field. How many times have I said Matthew Rodriguez's name on a super speedway here as of late in the NSRA? Just been lights out. He's figured something out about these particular racetracks, and he finds a way to get to the front at some point of the race. Got those steak and shake milkshakes on the back bumper that make me absolutely salivate. Maybe that will be the next poll here on 3Y TV. There you go. You can see him right there. You got the orange creamsicle. What about Lorello? We were looking at the milkshakes there, buddy. Now I have to jump on board with Andrew Himmelman and wait for him to catch back up to Matthew Rodriguez. Dude, you ruined us. All right, well, you got the orange creamsicle there. You got the M&M milkshake. Now, folks, you probably have to squint now because of Jason Gracias doing Jason Gracias things. But then you have the strawberry one. You got the mint Oreo one. That's my favorite. I love mint Oreo. That is like my favorite Blizzard at Dairy Queen. I just love mint Oreo, and it's so cool that he has it on the back. But it makes me salivate. Half price happy hour at Steak and Shake. See, that's right. We're giving sponsor plugs here on 3Y TV. Speaking of sponsor plugs, let's plug the sponsors here of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Of course, one of those being Stay Tuned Sports. There's a link to their Podbean in the description, so go click on that. That is the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast link if you want to go listen to it. Buttkicker, https thebuttkicker.com, craigsetupshop.co.uk, BetAngles.com. If you're into betting, make sure you go check them out. They'll give you the hot takes if you want to make a little bit of cash. MaxGrafix, MaxGrafix.co. Brookstone Animal Hospital, BrookstoneVet.com, Taz Racing Customs at Facebook.com, SimShots, link to their Facebook page as well. BeerStreetJournal.com, of course, the sponsor of The Last Call. We don't call it a green white checker, we call it the Beer Street Journal Last Call. Big thanks to them and everyone else here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Let's go check out the chat. We haven't checked on the chat all too much here tonight. We've been running polls all night long just to see what you guys are thinking in chat land. Christopher Darling says that he thinks there'll be a lot of wrecks here tonight. Same 4 or 5 guys are about drafting 3rd and 4th in line. We already saw Gracias get wrecked like that. There will be wrecks at some points. William Kerwin saying, when is the next stop? Probably coming up in a little while. Tana Himmelman rooting on Andrew Himmelman. Tana Himmelman saying the drone also needs more batteries. Yeah, maybe we can just go find some batteries. Daniel Noble also saying, who's going to spin in the pit lane next? Well, you might find out here shortly because just looking at the numbers, it's probably going to be around lap number 79 when we start to see these drivers back down pit road. 79 to 80, somewhere in that window, Drew. And like I said, that's coming up here as we are already working lap number 71.
Yeah, it is coming up quickly, and I think as we get closer and closer to the end of this race, the intensity is just going to pick up. And I think that with the field right now, especially as it seems like Lorello's fallen off a little bit with Izenga and the group behind this lead pack. As the groups of cars get smaller, the less likely, not that it's impossible, but the less likely it is that we will see a caution. It only takes really one truck to cause a caution, so that isn't necessarily a strong indicator. But, I mean, wrecks are just going to happen more often when you have the entire field in a small space. And as that field stretches out, like we're starting to see a little bit, the the less likely we are going to see that caution. But I think that as the intensity picks up, guys are going to be more aggressive. They're going to be more assertive. And a space that they might not have tried to squeeze into before, they're certainly going to put their truck in that position late in this race. And Peter, under 20 or under 30 to go, not under 20 to go, or we'll get there soon enough, but under 30 to go, this is very, very much the time. And even if you're one of those guys who wanted to be at the back, I think you have to start really positioning yourself towards the front.
Yeah, I tend to agree. You know, I think really if your driver's a little bit further back in this pack, you still have, of course, an opportunity. Here we go, on board with Nathan Maurer, looking at the back of JT Poole. Poole had all that damage from that pit road contact earlier in the race. But I think if you're Nathan Maurer, JT Poole, even Ben Izenga, James Varello, you might kind of want to languish about where you are for right now. But in about 2 or 3 laps, when we start to get closer and closer and closer to pit stops, I think that's when you really want to start to close in on the lead pack. But really anyone from your race leader, who's now Kyle Lewis in the number 18 machine, all the way back to Stan Hausman, who's just tagging on to this lead pack. Great job by Stan Hausman, of course, the winner from earlier this season at Talladega Superspeedway. Anyone in this lead pack could walk away with the win here tonight, without a doubt. You just have to keep your truck clean. That's job number 1. Job number 2 is, of course, get on and off pit road cleanly. We've seen that be a struggle for a couple of drivers here tonight. And job number 3, well, be the fastest. Get the job done. Go out there, win the race. And we're seeing a couple of these drivers putting themselves in the prime position to do so. We also have a couple of drivers, Drew, not in prime position to win the race. I mean, look at like Ben Mashburn, the number 24 machine. He's leading a second group of trucks. He really needs a caution flag. And cautions have not really come out here tonight. Only one caution here. Of course, that's probably the commentator's curse here as we close in on the 200-mile mark here at Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, 25 to go is real serious territory for these guys. And as you mentioned, Peter, 22 to go is, I think, when that pit window opens. That's when we saw that number 3 machine come down pit road. I'm wondering, though, if those guys who came down the 2 laps before everybody else, if they're going to be able to stretch it to 22. It'll be really interesting to see as the number 24, 2, 4, well, the 2's a lap down, but in the 4 machine, the number 55, all have lost touch with that main pack. And I wonder, Peter, if that 24's damage was masked a little bit in that main pack, and now that he kind of separated, that's really holding those guys back, as that last time by a 48.9 for Mashburn, or a 50.3 for Stan Hausman. And all you have to do, Peter, is be faster than the last truck in the pack. So actually a little bit quicker that time by in mid-50s towards the middle of the pack. So I think that pack's actually going to catch this lead pack eventually. They got a lot of work to do at about 3.5 seconds back, but they'll catch them. Actually, they're catching them really quickly, as you see in the background right there.
Yeah, absolutely. That group is closing in. I was a little bit concerned with their pace, but like you mentioned, they do seem to be closing in on the front pack. We'll see that if that happens again this time. So these are kind of a little bit backwards. So because Ben Mashburn, 2.4 seconds faster than Kyle Lewis. That's what that indicates. Lewis was 2.4 seconds slower than Ben Mashburn. So yeah, that group, they've erased that deficit. They've closed in. They've caught them, and that is great driving by that backpack to close in on the front group here and put themselves in position now to come down pit road with the lead pack here in probably the next 3 to 4 laps for what could be potentially the final time here tonight in the SimShots 250. We're looking at Garrett Gleason right here. Got Thornton Graphics on the number 7 machine. Dunn Raceway Park and Master Millwright out back. He's now in this lead pack right behind Nick Kessler. Taz Racing Customs number 4 machine right there in front of Gleason. Got to give a big shout out to Taz Racing Customs, of course, sponsoring the biggest mover of the race award. There it is, a good looking ride as well. I really like the looks of that Taz Racing Customs Chevrolet. But up at the front, still Kyle Lewis with help from Barry Knapp in the number 42, and looks like Lewis and Knapp are going to drop down to the low line here through turn number 3 and 4. I still think we might be a little bit early to see these trucks head down pit road, but maybe, just maybe, we'll get a driver or two this lap.
The 8 is certainly pitting, and I think that this is a little early. I don't know that these guys can make it, Peter. I think this field was slowing down because a lot of drivers were saving fuel, is my thought process as to suddenly why the 24 in company closed in. But this is, I don't know. They're going to have to save. I think they're going to have to save with 22 plus laps to go. It's going to be a stretch because that 23 laps, Peter, the laps weren't necessarily always up to pace for that 3. He wasn't running with the lead pack, running the speeds that the lead pack was. So it'll be interesting to see if this works. The 15 just really held up the number 5 and the number 10, and that is brutal for the SimShots team.
Yeah, they really needed to get out as a group. Now, Drew, one thing I am seeing is that Himmelman, Ulrich, Cannizzaro, and Adams, they went 22 laps under that last stint. And with 22 laps to go, I think it's going to be tight, but I think they can just make it. Now, also hearing that maybe Tyler Dudley has had more problems. He has indeed off the pace right now. We'll see whether or not a caution flag comes out, but this is the second time tonight we have seen Tyler Dudley lose control of the number 15 F-150 coming off of pit road. Seems like that's something maybe, Drew, that he will definitely be practicing on next week.
Yeah. I mean, certainly always something to work on. Sometimes they're just a little more obvious than others. As once again, the 15, you can't pick up that throttle wide open when you have wheel input, especially when there's no banking, like on the apron here at Daytona. As a huge chunk of the field comes in, there's no way that 75 was under pit limit on entry. Sometimes iRacing can be a little forgiving, but there's no way that 75 was down to pit road speed.
We will see just how forgiving it is as Kyle Lewis gets into his pit box. Man, I thought that number 18 slid a little bit long. Looks like he did a good enough job of getting to his pit box. Vincent Valvano, Jason Shue going off. I think they were both well back in the pack in their own group. Ooh, Barry Knapp in the number 42. Did something just happen to Barry Knapp? I think that's worthy of a 3-wide TV replay. He was all up out of shape. Might have made contact with the inside wall, getting to his box here. Here we go, Barry Knapp, number 42. Remember, he was up there, I think, in second, Drew. Getting rolling. Oh, lights up the rear tires. And, ooh, that's some hefty contact with the inside wall. And that's going to make for a very lengthy pit lane time, as he's now off the racetrack. Similar deal to what we just saw from the number 15 of Tyler Dudley. Now Barry Knapp is off the racetrack, and I'm going to frantically click the reverse button to see what exactly happened here to Barry Knapp trying to get up to speed.
I'm not seeing anything major, Peter. I think the truck's just really broken, and he's not confident that he can get that thing up to speed safely. So he just decides, quite frankly, in a commendable fashion, to get that thing off and away from other trucks to not affect their pit road exit, because, that 42 is still just rolling around the apron through 3 and 4, as now we see James Lorello, Ben Izinga coming on pit lane. And these guys, it's crucial that they nail their stop. Ooh, a little short for the number 9. He actually had to pull forward a little bit when he got into his pit box. Is the 07 getting serviced as well? It looks like right side tires for that number 07 machine. And Peter, we do know one thing. These two drivers will not have to save fuel. The question is where are they relative to the rest of the pack? Don't worry about those two trucks, folks. Yeah, these two are not necessarily, that are coming up, aren't the field. But JT Poole in that number 3 machine is the first driver off of pit road. And so he's the guy that we're going to be taking a look at. And he has a big lead over the rest of that pack that's already pitted.
But here they come chugging like a train. Around the outside comes Andrew Himmelman in the SimShots number 8 machine with help from his teammate there, Colin Ullery. He did have a big lead, but he had too big of a lead. As you see, Izinga and Lorello trying to get themselves up to race speed. They're not going to have anything for that number 8 of Himmelman, who has a huge head of steam into the race lead here at Daytona International Speedway, coming to just 17 laps to go, and look like almost contact back there between JT Poole and Kyle Lewis. They get things settled out here as they go across the start-finish line, back to 2 wide. 4 trucks up front, all single file. They are the teammates: Himmelman, Ulrich, Cannizzaro, Adams, your 4 Sim Shots Racing machines. And it's going to be tough here, Drew, to break the stronghold that is Sim Shots Racing here in the Sim Shots 250.
Yet it doesn't hurt that they have some lap trucks in front of them that are giving them a heck of a draft that is going to absolutely kill any chance that outside lane has of working with these two. Is a good job by the 00 and the 77 to just get up and out of the way and let these guys race it through themselves. As the number 62 of Colin Ulrich. You speak about breaking up the Sim Shots team. I think Colin Ulrich is going to do it for you as the 07, the number 9, going to take it high as well, following Ulrich. And we've seen those S2R trucks really be able to make that high line work throughout the race.
Yeah, Izenga's been a stellar pusher, so has Lorello. And with them pushing the number 62 of Colin Ulrich now to the race lead, but they're going to stick together, is Lorello and Izenga. And I've been surprised that Lorello has been able to keep the engine underneath him here tonight because of how close he has been following Ben Izenga all night long. But at least for right now, the engine is good in the number 9 Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Chevrolet. I thought it was a Toyota there for a second. It definitely is not. But it is a batch of Chevy Silverados up there inside your top 6. Only the number 18 of Kyle Lewis. He is the first Toyota right now being scored in the 7th spot. Then we got a couple of Fords rounding out your top 10. But for right now, Ulrich, once he was pushed to the race lead, chopped down in front of the number 8 of Andrew Himmelman, and he is going to assume the race lead here with just 15 more laps to go. That's just under 50 miles at Daytona.
Yeah, and when those big lane changes happen, sorry, I got a little tongue-tied as the 18 is making it 3 wide, or kind of being put 3 wide, rather. It really kills the lane that the truck maneuvered from, and sometimes the lane that the truck maneuvered to. It just really changes the momentum. That high lane was working really quickly or really well, and that 62, as soon as he made that move, that high lane kind of stalled out a little bit, but is now recovering as Izenga is getting some great pushes from that number 9. But Peter, these guys are really pushing each other. I would be really worried about the temps given how close both the number 8 and the number 9 machines have been to the trucks in front of them.
Yeah, it is definitely go time at Daytona. You see all of the trucks with the green banners up there in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs. Now, they're not all on the lead lap. Namely, Matt Cherry there, the 3rd truck in line on the high line, the number 38, he's not on the lead lap. He is currently 1 lap down in 18th. Doug Neal in the number 77, he is 1 lap down in the 20th position. So they need some Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards to get back on the lead lap, but the laps are winding down quickly. 13 laps to go here until we see the checkered flag in the first race of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs, and it is a non-playoff driver of Colin Ulrich leading his way around here, but we know he's very, very good on these super speedways. Of course, he is the reigning GTR Simulator Super Speedway Series champion, and the National Sim Racing Association will not be able to defend that title, as Matthew Rodriguez has all but locked that up with his 5 wins in the Super Speedway Series. He's not out of the mix here tonight, although he's just barely hanging on to a top 11 right now in the 11th position. We'll see whether or not he can find a way magically to get to the front. It seems like that's what he's been able to do in the Super Speedway Series, but not here tonight just yet as we go into turn number 1 yet again.
Yeah, the 62 in that inside lane, as these runs have been tighter and tighter between the trucks as they've been pushing harder and harder, it seems like that inside lane has gained an edge over that outside lane versus I think when the trucks were a little more relaxed in their drafting, posturing, or what have you, it seemed like that high lane was a little stronger. Is now the number 1 of Gracias making a move to that high lane, trying to put it 3 wide. I just don't think he necessarily has the momentum or the help. He's trying to get around that lap truck of Matt Cherry so he can get up there and compete with these guys. Finally, he's able to get that high lane, but he wants guys to draft with him. I thought that 9 got way out of shape right there. But he's able to keep it under control. But who's going to go with the number 1? He doesn't need any help. He's going to take it 3 wide on the number 9 of James Barello as well. I'm really surprised that he doesn't have any help, given how well he's making that upper lane work. But now he's at a big risk of falling back. He slots back in on the 4th truck on that high lane, but you can tell that number 1 is not satisfied running in the 4th truck on that high lane.
And you see the field catching up to the number 23 of Travis White, who here is just holding up the inside groove. I'm sure there will be a couple of drivers who will not be at all happy with Travis White right now, because just like that front battle for the race lead was completely broken up. Not sure if Travis knew that the lead pack was coming like that. And now Ben Izenga, James Barello to the front. Izenga drops down to the bottom in front of Matt Cherry, who's a lap truck. Could possibly use him to his advantage here, Drew. With that number 38, of course, hoping to see a yellow flag. Gracias on the high line. Now looks like Himmelman going to go to the middle. Now Cherry's going to go to the middle. Maybe go with the number 9 machine. It's like it's the last lap here at Daytona, but we still have 10 to go.
Yeah, it's just going to get more intense. I think that this level of aggression is unsustainable. Really surprised the number 8 went with the number 9, who is a championship rival, rather than going with Jason Gracias, trying to leave a guy that you're competing for a championship with high and dry. Interesting move by Drew Himmelman right there. Probably a gentlemanly move, but one I probably would not have made. The number 38 machine, though, leading that outside lane, and that is really bad news for James Barello, because if the 38...
Drew, I think...
Get real wiggly right there, Peter.
I think that was a bad bump from Colin Ullery. It maybe another bad bump by Colin Ullery. Each drivers have to calm down. It isn't the last lap yet. We still have 9 laps to go, and you know the old adage, to finish first you must finish. So Ullery here all over the back bumper of the number 07. I know he's trying to push him to the race lead. I know he's trying to get clear, but Colin, you still have to finish the race, buddy. And you're racing around other drivers right now who are all playoff contenders. I'm sure, if I'm Ben Izenga, I'm probably queuing up the radio right now and like, dude, hey, stop giving me these bump drafts in the middle of the corners. I'm a playoff driver. You don't want to wreck me. I don't want you to wreck me. Vice versa, because that could have major implications. Looks like they've kind of backed off of one another, although Cherry and Ullery getting really tight. Ullery's really aggressive right now here, Drew.
Yeah, but that high lane not really together, all of a sudden just kind of falling apart. I don't expect that 38 will be able to maintain his track position given his kind of lack of help. But the 24 now moving in a little bit. But with that whole kind of mix-up, given the 23's unrelenting style of getting lapped, that really put the 8 kind of in a bad position, as well as that number 10 and the 5. The whole SimShots team was really broken up by that whole ordeal, as Cherry is doing a good job now. All of a sudden that outside lane really quickly reformed and is doing a really nice job. Just unfortunately for Lorello, he can push the 38 all he wants. Oh, as they get dead sideways right there. I think Lorello tried to force it 3 wide. Mashburn made a move, but nothing happened. Here comes the number 1 of Jason Gracias. Oh, there's contact! Contact and a huge wreck as the 62 is flying through the air.
Yeah, and a bunch of trucks involved towards the back of the pack. And Nathan Maurer getting involved there. The big one strikes at Daytona, Drew. It was brewing for about the last 2 or 3 laps, and it finally hit here. Let's see what all happened. Coming out of turn number 2, starting with the number 9 of Lorello. Ooh, bad bump by Lorello on the back of the number 38 machine. And let's see, Mashburn goes to the middle. Although Mashburn, I think, backs out of it. But I think it was the number 23 truck, the lapped truck of Travis White, giving a bump draft to the number 62, maybe? Not sure. Look at Gracias there going to the middle. In the SimShots number 1 machine, no. Okay, so no contact here so far. And it was net code between the 6 and the 1. And Gracias just goes down into the 62 machine, who gets flung up into the air. and then goes over. Ben Adams, playoff driver getting involved in that one. Vincent Valvano getting involved. Matthew Rodriguez will not win here tonight. The 4 machine getting involved. The 2 of Justin White piling in right up there. But I think, Drew, that was netcode that caused that accident. I believe so. We'll have to go back and get one more look at it.
Yeah, I think that you are correct that was netcode. It's unfortunate when that stuff happens. It feels like it's something that every other racing game I've ever played. Sorry, simulation, folks, not a game. It's a simulation. Never has the netcoding problem like iRacing does. It's one of the most frustrating aspects to the product that they put out there. Everything else is, in my opinion, is really great. It's this stuff right here. There's no contact. There's a full few feet between those 2 trucks. Still a few feet. They're close, but I don't think, that's not direct contact, Peter. That is absolutely unfortunate. They were still at least a foot apart when that netcode happened. And the 62, good Lord. No, firstly, the number 5 is so fortunate. If he didn't get a weird hitbox thing, the number 5, I mean, he got involved a little bit, but that could have been way worse for Mr. Adams.
Yeah, unfortunately, you see a lot of front-end damage on the number 5. Is that smoke coming out of the number 5 machine there, Drew? I think that is smoke coming out of the number 5. I think it's night done. Yeah, sure enough, smoke billowing out of Ben Adams' machine. We thought he might have gotten lucky, but that was netcode. Because, I mean, how ridiculous is it that the number 62 is flying up into space? But it looked like Adams was going to go directly underneath in his machine, but unfortunately for him, it looks like his night is done here at Daytona.
Yeah, 2 instances of netcode. Again, I mean, I think that, it's kind of ridiculous, in my opinion, that the number 5 exploded from a truck not hitting it. Look, completely under. Yeah, you saw the impact as the camera shook. He took a little side impact, but that should not do what it did to that number 5 machine. That's something that iRacing really needs to fix and work on, are the hitboxes for vehicles, because they're not accurate, and this ridiculous netcoding that causes wrecks like this that didn't actually need to happen. As, the 75, huge impact. I'm sorry, the 57 scored as the 75, but the 57, another truck smoking. And Peter, that honestly wasn't as big as it could have been, but the trucks that were involved were absolutely demolished.
Unfortunately so, and we definitely have quite a few trucks in that mix. Now, this is exactly what that driver wanted to see. That is your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner right there of Matt Cherry, one of your playoff drivers back on the lead lap, thanks to this caution flag. Only the second caution flag of the night, and now I very quickly have to go to the chat, because will we see a Beer Street, I'm typing it in as I'm saying it, folks, Journal last call. Will we see it? The answers are yes or no. You have to vote if you're in the chat here tonight. Thank you for joining us here on 3Y TV for the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series Playoffs. I'm Peter Short, and alongside me is Drew Eisenman. A couple of Texans giving you flag-to-flag coverage here. As you see, the pace car lights have turned off. Not sure what the heck is up with the slow-motion camera. I guess we back in the production booth love it when they're going extra slow motion, because they're already going slow because they're behind the pace truck. But now are we still going half speed?
Yeah, we're still in slow-mo, Peter. Yeah, we're a little bit behind.
I don't know what's up with this. There we go. I just had to smash the button 10 times. Anyway, we got it sorted out, folks. We know what we do, and I promise you. 3 laps to go at Daytona. We're back green. Couple of the playoff drivers, Lorello and Izenga, lead us back to green flag, Drew.
Yeah, you mentioned that we're Texans, SEC, maybe soon to be, as the number 9 of Lorello and Izenga teammates, side by side. through 1 and 2. A great shot from the number 24. You can be a little bit more aggressive with these bumps when you're getting up to speed. The trucks are more stable until they really get up to full speed. You can be a little bit more aggressive through the corners. Not to say that it's you can't wreck each other, because you certainly can, but you can be a little bit more aggressive, as Izinga did not get a great restart. I'm wondering if that number 1 machine is significantly damaged, because that whole outside lane really struggled on that restart here.
Yeah, possibly. Of course, Gracias was involved in that accident just a few moments ago. Here we go, coming to 2 laps to go, and it is Lorello leading Mashburn, Ben Izenga, Kyle Lewis, Jason Gracias, and look at the number 39 of Stan Hausman. He is now up in the mix as well for a strong finish. 3 wide, a little bit further back. JT Poole on the top side, Andrew Himmelman, and on the low line, that's Matt Cherry, who just picked up that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. 1.5 laps to go as we head down the backstretch.
The question is, can we make it to 1 to go? There are no cautions once you receive the white flag. These guys certainly are giving each other no quarter as they go through 3 and 4. I thought the 07 was going to get caught in the middle. Contact between the 26, the 8 involved as well, and that's going to be a caution. Several chasers involved.
Yeah, Andrew Himmelman's involved, and I think that number 8 is smoking. Indeed it is. Andrew Himmelman is out. JT Poole also involved in that. Looks like he will be able to escape the major damage here. What happened here, Drew? Again, possibly involving the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias. We're going to have to bring in that's not Jason Gracias. There's Jason Gracias. Okay, let's back that one up just a fraction of a second more. Now slow motion makes sense. Here we go. Was there any contact this time? Kyle Lewis coming off the bottom side of the racetrack, and it might have been netcode again there, Drew. Straight up into John Cannizzaro. JT Poole getting involved right there, and Andrew Himmelman in the 8 gets into the back of the 1 machine, straight down into Adam Dama. How about this for some camera work, folks? Probably woke camera work. And I think that was the 77 getting into the back of one driver. That was the 77 of Doug Neal. He's back on the lead lap. But unfortunately, Doug Miller getting some heavy damage there, or John Cannizzaro, JT Poole. A couple of the drivers further back doing a great job of getting around that, but that took out some heavy hitters.
Interesting that the 08 blew up, or the number 8 blew up from that. Not significant contact with the 8. That's unfortunate. I mean, yeah, I think there was a little bit of netcode, but that one was a little bit, closer to me. The 18 definitely moved up, and when you're 3 wide, you don't need to move much for there to be a wreck, and I think that was kind of inevitable, but we're going to stack them and rack them once again, as now we're riding on board with Garrett Gleason. And yeah, you just see, luckily all those trucks kind of went to the high lane. It avoided more chaos for a lot of those guys. Sometimes, Peter, at these super speedways, the whole track can get blocked really quickly, and then you just have a whole mess of trucks piling in because there's nowhere to go. I mean, certainly not lucky for the guys involved, but lucky for a lot of these other trucks that made it through this. As there you see, I still can't figure out how that 8 blew his motor. I don't understand that. That's super unfortunate for Mr. Himmelman, but it's just one of those wrecks coming to the white flag that we see so often in iRacing.
Yeah, you see Kyle Lewis just drifting up the racetrack a little bit, and I think that we'll just go back just a smidgen and see if we can just ride on board with the number 18 machine. Here we go. Watch that yellow line, folks. Just kind of goes up the racetrack right there, and there's the contact. And I almost wonder if there was a little bit of contact maybe from behind from Nick Kessler, that maybe iRacing factored into that contact. I don't know. But unfortunately, it was quite a bit of carnage for a couple of your playoff drivers. And now you see some of the chaos on pit road. There is JT Poole in his box. Jason Gracias, who was going for the Buttkicker challenge. Folks, he got his butt kicked here tonight. Now, Andrew Himmelman has, I don't know what they've done. They put some duct tape on the headers or something, and he's back out there on the racetrack. No smoking motor anymore. Maybe his sump was cracked or something. Maybe he had to go fix his sump. Or I don't know, but whatever the case, that number 8 machine is back out there on the racetrack without a blown motor, so that is good news for him. Meanwhile, at the top of the field. The pace truck lights are off. And folks, we're going to have a Beer Street Journal last call. How about that? Big shout out to our friends over at BeerStreetJournal.com for sponsoring the Beer Street Journal last call. It is the first attempt, Drew. We have 2 attempts at a Beer Street Journal last call. And I think the poll has answered itself. The question was, will we see a Beer Street Journal last call? 73% said yes. I don't know who voted before and after we actually had one, but if you voted yes before, thumbs up, you nailed it, because we are going to get some extra laps here around Daytona International Speedway. And Drew, look at that. We got Lorello up there. We got Izenga. Those are our 2 playoff drivers there, kind of inside the top 4. But then we got Stan Hausman in the number 39, who was just thankful to be a part of the playoffs. It was his first time ever qualifying for a playoffs, and right now he's running in the 5th position right there. Nick Kessler in the number 4, he's got quite a bit of damage. But then we have Doug Neal, who got a lick of that accident. Matt Cherry up there. Cherry and Neal were both the lap down earlier in the race. So these drivers here kind of having a little bit of a late race resurgence. What can they do? Who will win? We'll find out in 2 more laps. But Ben Mashburn and Lorello will lead us to the green flag here.
Well, we know the race is going to go on at least 2 more laps. There might be another last call after this restart, but James Lorello leading his S2R teammate on that outside lane. Get a great restart, maybe a little too good for the S2R teammates, as this whole field is going to get a ton of energy when they close back in. If they can, that number 24 has some significant damage. The 18 has some right front damage as well. It'll be interesting to see who can get a run on these 2 teammates. Can the field bunch back together in time, as I think that these 2 are going to defend that bottom lane like just as hard as they can. As now the number 24 goes up high, the 4 with him. Stan Hausman in the 33. Matt Cherry back in this thing in that number 38 machine, as the field is about to come off turn 4. Only a few hundred more feet until they get the white flag. Can they get it before they wreck? I think that they will, as now Mashburn just noses ahead on that outside lane with 1 to go.
It is going to be really close up at the front of the field. Mashburn leads us going off into turn number 1. Nick Kessler in the number 4 machine. He's trying to get a top 5 here tonight, as the S2R machines get a little wobbly through turn number 1 and 2 on the inside line. The outside line has to check up. Adam Dama and Nathan Maurer towards the back of the group also having a little bit of a scuffle. Here comes Matt Cherry. He's going to try and take it 3 wide to the inside of Stan Hausman, and contact between Cherry and Hausman, and Izenga going nailed up into the outside wall. Only 1 playoff driver makes it through. It's going to be Mashburn and Lorello to the start-finish line, Drew.
Yeah, I think Mashburn's in the position. Will that 4 be able to make a move? He will not. Ben Mashburn wins here at Daytona.
And Garrett Gleason going to finish in 4th. Bushbosher in 5th. Back behind him, it is a graveyard of trucks. Matt Cherry, Stan Hausman's all smoking. Kyle Lewis junked. Doug Neal junked. And Neal isn't even going to make it back, so he's going to get passed by Andrew Himmelman and Ben Adams, although I think Adams is a lap down in the number 5 machine. It looks like Himmelman going to get past the 18 as well before the start-finish line. Not able to get to Stan Hausman, but my, oh my, what a huge wreck on the final lap.
Yeah, and the 0-7, Ben Izenga not going to finish the race, going to finish last on the lead lap, as that 07, as you're about to see shortly, takes a heck of an impact. As I saw the number 38 and the 39, they just weren't leaving each other room. Boom, the 39 comes down just a little bit, hooks Izenga in a massive hit. Oh my goodness, it just kept getting worse for Izenga as he spun like a top, repeatedly impacted, as the 24 of Mashburn celebrates it. Burn it down, sir. What a recovery that Mashburn made from that incident on pit road. Both, I think you and I both thought he would struggle to be competitive, and yet he takes home the checkered flag.
Yeah, that he does. I thought his night was done after that contact with Ben Izenga on pit road, and Izenga is going to be credited with a 16th place finish after all of that. We're going to have to get a ride on board with your 4th place finisher, Garrett Gleason, who ties Ben Mashburn for the biggest mover of the race, plus 23 spots. Ben Mashburn started 24th and makes his way to victory lane. How about that for a view here in the Sim Shots 250? A little bit of a sim shot there for Ben Mashburn across the start-finish line. Folks, we're going to get some great interviews with our top three finishers here tonight. James Zarello, Nick Kessler, and Ben Mashburn. Just have to find him here in the chat. I'm not seeing Nick Kessler, however. Nick Kessler, if you are... Oh, I do find him. I do find him. I do see him. Okay, so we got him now down there. Let's get Ben Mashburn down into our waiting pen where they can all start throwing punches and all that stuff if they have to. No, I'm just kidding. They don't do any of that stuff here in this particular series. Maybe some other series that we broadcast, but let's see if we can get tonight's third place finisher, driver of the number 9 machine, James Zarello. Drew, why don't you take it away?
Mr. Lorello, Drew Eisman, up here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy.
Gotcha.
Well, James, on that last restart, I thought you guys were going to be near untouchable. Walk us through those last 2 laps.
Yeah, I thought we were going to be pretty good, but, once that wreck happened, I just lost all my hope there. I think we would have been good there to the finish, would have been close. But it was good to have Ben push me, and we worked our way up there. It was a fun race.
Well, I mean, you didn't get the win, but you certainly set yourself up really well for the rest of the round of 10. How much was that playing into your decisions tonight, given the kind of precarious situation that you could face, given if it went wrong?
Yeah, that was definitely in my head. And next week, I'm going to be at the beach, so I'm not sure if I'm bringing my stuff with me. We'll see how the points shake out here, because I was really hoping to get a win here and take a provisional next week. But the third, I don't know. I got to figure something out, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, 3 of your fellow Chase drivers finished outside of the top 20. So, I mean, you certainly you were the top finishing playoff driver as well. So it certainly went pretty well as far as that's concerned. But, James, you've set yourself up in a really good position in this round of 7. You mentioned you might miss next week, but what are you looking forward to, or what are you concentrating most on throughout the rest of these playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to get consistent finishes and transfer to the next round is my ultimate goal. Trying to be a little bit more careful maybe than I usually am. It's been a competitive season all year long, and I just need to find some of the consistency I had there at the end.
Yeah, and you set yourself up really well. We saw you and Ben Izinga working really well together. How much effort and focus did you put on working with your teammate throughout the race?
Yeah, that was basically our plan the whole time. We felt like we were pretty fast in tandem, so we figured we'd do everything together. And it worked out. I mean, we were always in front of the pack, and that was, the only time we're going to leave each other out to dry was going to be the last lap, is what we agreed on.
Well, I mean, and you didn't even do that. Unfortunately, he just got pulled away from you.
Yep, that's right.
Well, James, let's hear those shout-outs before we let you go.
Yeah, well, thanks to you guys for the season and putting on the broadcast, and to Stay Tuned Podcast. I'm glad he's still on the truck and sponsoring the series. Excited for this playoff run. I think it's going to be exciting to finish out the year. So excited for it.
All right, James. Well, congratulations on your podium finish, and thank you for talking with us.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
All right, well, that's going to do it with tonight's third place finisher, driver of the number 9 machine. That, of course, being James Zarello. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's runner-up with a late race charge, driver of the number 4 machine, Nick Kessler. Nick, Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
10-4.
Well, I'll tell you what, Nick. What a crazy race. What a crazy finish there for all you guys out there. Tell us about how you were able to squeak away with a second place finish.
On that last restart, restarting on the top side had so much momentum off every corner here. So when I restarted on the top, I hoped that I had a top 3 in hand, but didn't expect that to go that way.
Well, you definitely did walk away with a top 3 here tonight at Daytona, but it wasn't without trials and tribulations. It seemed like here tonight there were a couple times where you weren't in the right position. In fact, we really didn't mention your name a whole lot till right there at the end. How grateful were you for those late race cautions?
I was really grateful after some of the pit stops I had. I screwed up just like 2 weeks ago. I've had really great success until those pit stops. Those pit stops, you really have to hit those marks, and I still need to learn.
Well,
So
hey,
those cautions really helped a lot.
yeah, well, hey, next week we go to Kansas Speedway, a 1.5 miles. That races a little bit differently than a lot of the other 1.5 miles here in the sim. What are your thoughts about going to Kansas next week?
I have high hopes. Best thing to do at any track besides super speedway is save your tires, which I think I've really succeeded on in the past 3 years I've been on the sim. So I'm hoping to have another good run next week and hopefully bring home one spot closer.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, congratulations on your second place finish. But before we let you go, any shout outs?
Yeah, I'd like to thank NSRA, MaxGrafix, 3Y TV, SimShots, Buttkicker, JD Motorsports with Gary Keller, and Taz Racing Customs for your custom diecast needs.
All right. Well, Nick, great looking Taz Racing Customs Chevrolet here tonight. Coming home in second. Best of luck next week at Kansas.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our second place interview with Nick Kessler. Let's see if we can go down to victory lane, where I believe Drew Eisenman has caught up with driver of the number 24 machine, Ben Mashburn. Drew.
Ben Mashburn, Drew Eisman up here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy.
Hey, Drew, how's it going?
Well, it's going pretty well, Mr. Mashburn. That was sure an entertaining race. Your 53rd start, your first career win. Walk us through how that went.
It's a relief. First of all, get that out of the way. It is a huge relief. Like you said, 53rd start. I feel like I haven't missed a race here at NSRA, and I've been right there on the cusp of it and fell short a lot, but it feels good to finally check that box. It was a long race. Got hung up in the pit lane there. Kind of was got me back, and then I slid through my pit stall on one of my pit stops, so that's when I got to the back of the pack. But appreciate Justin White pushing in there. We caught up to the field right there at the end, right there before the last pit stop, and that was huge.
Yeah, and I think that both Peter and I had severe doubts as to whether you were even going to be able to compete in the main pack after that incident on pit road. Just can you walk us through exactly what happened there?
Yeah, I came out of my pit stall. I guess I took too long to get up in the high lane. I was still in the slow lane on the left side a little bit. Zinga was coming down. Usually pit road, I don't know, it's like flip a coin, man. Sometimes you're invisible, sometimes you're not with other trucks. And that time we just happened not to be, and I just spun him around, got into him. I didn't get but 30 seconds of damage, so it wasn't too bad. Do apologize to Zinga right there. Definitely didn't mean for that to happen.
Yeah, and we were kind of commenting on you kind of never know if iRacing is going to make a car solid or not. But a great recovery there. A lot of chasers and playoff guys were involved in incidents tonight. Was that were those drivers? Did you keep them in mind as you were going tonight, or were you just running your race?
In the back of your head, you obviously keep them in mind. You want to give them a little bit more respect. You know they're running for a championship. You're not, so kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But at the same time, we're all racing. We all want to win. You don't go out there and hope to finish second, third, just because somebody's in the playoffs and you're not. The goal is to still win. So it was good to get out there and win, regardless of playoffs, no playoffs. And at the same time, that adds to the same mindset. I'm not in the playoffs, what do I have to lose? So you can be a little bit more aggressive, I feel like, when you don't have a championship to lose. You can kind of just go out there and run a race.
Yeah, we certainly saw, both playoff and non-playoff guys alike, but I think that you nailed it as far as what the non-playoff guys took in their approach to tonight. Well, we got a bit of a change of pace next week compared to Daytona. Kansas, what are your thoughts going into that big 1.5 in the Midwest?
Kansas, fun track. Another track I feel like I can be competitive at. I feel like I'm competitive at super speedways. If I'm going to get a win, it's only right that it finally comes at a super speedway. I feel like that's kind of that's where I succeed most, it seems like. Kansas will be where, all right, like I said, not a playoff race for me, but we'll still show up and see where we can finish. Hopefully have a good race. It's a shame the W didn't come, 2-3 weeks ago and lock me into the playoffs, but a win's a win and it feels good.
Yeah, it's almost how that tends to go sometimes, right? It's great to win, but you would wish you would have been a little earlier. But Ben, again, congratulations. Before we let you go, let's hear those shout-outs.
For sure, man. Obviously, Justin White right there catching us back up to the field. That was huge. Nick Kessler right there at the end. That kind of shot a late block right there and got up right in front of him on the high lane. That was huge. He stuck with me right at the end, so I definitely appreciate that. MaxGrafix, he designed the truck. I'd like a big shout out to him. I don't drive a truck that ain't painted by MaxGrafix. STS, Stay Tuned Sports, sponsoring the series. Obviously, SimShot sponsoring the race. And I'd say that's about it. I just, like I said, feels good to finally get a W.
Absolutely. Once again, congratulations on your first career victory, and thanks for talking with us.
Appreciate it, guys. You have a good one.
You as well.
All right, well, that's going to do it with our race-winning interview with driver of the number 24 machine, Ben Mashburn, here tonight in the SimShots 250 here on 3 Wide TV. Drew, what an absolutely wild race it was here for pretty much everyone, from every driver to everyone here in the chat. Thanks to everyone joining us in the chat. Let's see if we can go through tonight's final race rundown. Taking home the win and his first career win here in the series, it was Ben Mashburn. In the number 24 machine, Nick Kessler coming home in second. James Sorello third. Garrett Gleason, what a run for G-Money coming home inside the top 5. Evan Bushbosher in 5th. Nathan Maurer, Stephen Doziat 6th and 7th. Vincent Valvano, Matt Cherry, and Stan Hausman rounding out your top 10 there, Drew. And I think the big story is out of that top 10, only 3 drivers, James Sorello, Matt Cherry, and Stan Hausman, are playoff drivers.
Absolutely, but another playoff driver with a solid recovery given the wreck that he was involved in that number 8 machine. Drew Himmelman, a good recovery in 11th position. Kyle Lewis in 12th. Jason Gracias, our pole sitter, involved in that big wreck. Again, not a bad recovery, though, in 13th position. JT Poole, another chaser playoff driver, caught up in one of those late race wrecks in 14th. Izenga obviously had that spectacular wreck on the last lap. He did not finish, so he scored 1 lap down, but the first car or truck 1 lap down in 15th position. Doug Neal, another chaser, with not a perfect night, but not nearly as bad as it could have been. That 77 truck finishes 16th. Doug Milner in 17th. Jason Shu in 18th. Adam Dama in 19th. And John Canizaro round out our top 20.
In the 21st position here tonight is the driver of the number 5 machine, Ben Adams, which is a big shame for him, as he, being one of the playoff drivers, had such a great race going till late in the show. Matthew Rodriguez, 22nd. Travis White, 23rd. Colin Ullery in 24th. He had a great race going until late race accident. Justin White, Barry Knapp, 26th. Tyler Dudley, 27th. Robert Dudley, 28th. Chris Darling and Mitchell Adams, 29th and 30th, 29th and I don't know what I was going to say. There's no 20 after 29. Anyway, whatever. Mitchell Adams and Chris Darling, those last 2 finishers were playoff drivers. Of course, they technically still are, but they're going to have a really good race next week at the Kansas Speedway if they want to move on into the round of 7. Of course, Mitchell Adams is the reigning series champion. One thing we have to do, of course, before we go here tonight is highlight the biggest mover of the race, and it is the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award at that, and it goes to Ben Mashburn and Garrett Gleason. We mentioned it there earlier. Mashburn started in 24th, finishes, of course, as your race winner. Garrett Gleason started 27th. He's going to come home in 4th, so congratulations to both of them. Taz Racing Customs If you need a custom diecast, go check them out. They put out an awesome product, and many people here in the NSRA have used Taz Racing Customs before. But Drew, I think that is pretty much going to do it here tonight. Any final thoughts?
No, I mean it was a race that took a long time to boil, but once it did, it erupted like a volcano. I felt like the first 80 laps, calm, passive, aggressive, but nothing crazy. In the last 20, move after move, wreck after wreck. But Ben Mashburn finally bringing home that W.
Absolutely. Big shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles we bring you each and every week here on 3Y TV. But for myself, Peter Short, Drew Eisenman, and everyone else in the 3Y TV family, we'll see you next week at Kansas Speedway. But until then, stay safe and we shall see ya.